It's amazing how something so small can carry such a big story. Imagine holding a single copper-colored coin between your fingers, something most people would barely notice if it were sitting in a change jar or lost between couch cushions. A 1-cent coin, a penny, the lowest denomination of U.S. currency. Yet sometimes, the most ordinary objects hide extraordinary stories, and the 2015 United States 1-cent coin with the D mint mark is a perfect example of that quiet magic. Picture the year 2015 in the United States. Smartphones were already glued to our hands, social media ruled daily life, and cash itself was starting to feel a little old-fashioned. Many people questioned whether the penny even had a future. It cost more to produce than its face value, debates raged in Congress, and millions of Americans tossed pennies aside without a second thought. And yet, deep inside the massive machinery of the U.S. Mint, millions of new 1-cent coins were still being struck, continuing a tradition that stretches back more than 2 centuries. Among those pennies was the 2015 1-cent coin minted in Denver, identified by the small but powerful letter D beneath the date. That single letter is easy to overlook, but it represents one of the most important minting facilities in the country. The Denver Mint has been producing coins since 1906, and over the decades it has built a reputation for precision, consistency, and volume. Coins bearing the D mint mark have circulated through countless hands, pockets, and wallets, quietly doing their job in the background of American life. In 2015, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of 1-cent coins. On paper, that kind of production number doesn't sound rare at all. In fact, it sounds almost overwhelming. How could a coin produced in such massive quantities ever become special? That's where the story begins to twist, because in the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't always about how many coins were made. Sometimes, it's about condition, precision, and the tiny imperfections, or perfections, that separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary one. Some were set aside by collectors. Others were preserved in rolls, mint sets, or carefully stored away from moisture, friction, and air. And a very tiny fraction emerged from the mint with something special, exceptional strike quality, flawless surfaces, and pristine condition that places them at the very top of grading scales. In the numismatic world, condition is everything. Professional grading services examine coins under magnification, looking for even the smallest flaws. They assess the sharpness of the strike, the quality of the luster, and the presence or absence of marks, scratches, or discoloration. For modern coins like the 2015 D penny, achieving the highest possible grades is surprisingly difficult. With such high-speed minting processes, tiny imperfections are almost inevitable. That makes truly perfect examples incredibly rare. The appeal of the 2015 D penny also lies in its place in modern coin history. It represents a time when the penny's future was uncertain, when discussions about eliminating the denomination were louder than ever. For collectors, this gives the coin a sense of narrative importance. It's not just a piece of metal, it's a snapshot of a moment in American economic and cultural history. Stories circulate in the collecting community about people who unknowingly spent valuable coins, and others who recognize something special just in time. That sense of possibility keeps collectors searching, examining dates and mint marks with careful eyes. The 2015 D penny has become part of that conversation, especially when discussions turn to high-grade modern coins. As demand grows for top-quality examples, prices begin to climb. Collectors compete to own the finest known specimens, and auction results reflect that competition. A coin that looks identical to a regular penny at arm's length can command a shocking price once its grade and rarity are confirmed. This is where the story of the 2015 D penny takes its most dramatic turn. After years of circulation, preservation, grading, and collector interest, the market has spoken. While most 2015 D pennies remain worth just 1 cent, the finest known examples have achieved a level of value that surprises even seasoned collectors. In top condition, with exceptional grading and eye appeal, the 2015 United States 1-cent coin with the D mint mark has reached a current value of $1.58. Yes, a penny. 1 cent worth $1.58. That number changes the way you look at the coin entirely. Suddenly, it's no longer small or insignificant. It becomes a symbol of how history, craftsmanship, and condition can transform the ordinary into something remarkable. It reminds us that value isn't always obvious at first glance, and that sometimes, the most unexpected treasures are the ones we've been overlooking all along. So, the next time you see a penny dated 2015, take a second look. Check for that small D beneath the date. Think about where it came from, the hands it may have passed through, and the story it carries. Because in a world where pennies are often ignored, one tiny coin has proven that even the smallest piece of change can hold a surprisingly big legacy, and, in the right condition, a value of $158. Imagine holding a small copper-colored coin in your hand, something so ordinary that you might normally toss it into a jar without a second thought. It's light, familiar, and unassuming. You've seen thousands just like it. But today, that humble 1-cent coin is about to tell you a story, one that travels through American history, minting halls filled with roaring machinery, microscopic design details, and the surprising world of coin collectors where a single penny can be worth far more than 1 cent. This is the story of the 1984 United States 1-cent coin with the Denver Mint mark, the 1984 D penny. To understand why this coin matters, we need to step back in time. The year is 1984. The United States is deep into a decade defined by bold personalities, economic shifts, and cultural change. Ronald Reagan is president, the Cold War still looms large, and technology is beginning to quietly reshape daily life. Amid all this change, the U.S. Mint continues its steady work, striking billions of coins to keep the nation's economy moving. Pennies are everywhere, used in grocery stores, payphones, parking meters, and tip jars. They are so common that few people stop to think about where they come from or what stories they carry. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909, has already been in circulation for 75 years by 1984. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, honoring President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. By the time the 1984 penny was struck, Lincoln's portrait had become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. Generations had grown up seeing his calm, thoughtful face staring back at them from a copper coin. By 1984, the composition of the penny had already changed from its earlier days. Before 1982, pennies were primarily made of copper. But rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to adjust. Starting in 1982, most pennies were struck with a zinc core coated in a thin layer of copper. The 1984 D penny follows this newer composition, consisting of 97.5% zinc and just 2.5% copper. While this change helped reduce production costs, it also created new challenges, including susceptibility to corrosion if the copper plating is damaged. The Denver Mint was incredibly busy in 1984. In fact, it produced an astonishing number of pennies that year, over 4 billion. With numbers like that, it's easy to assume that any 1984 D penny must be extremely common and worth only face value. And for the vast majority of them, that's true. The discovery of the doubled-ear variety transformed the 1984 D penny from a common coin into a collector favorite. Suddenly, people began checking their change, searching through old rolls, and pulling pennies from jars in hopes of finding that one special example. It's a perfect example of how a small minting mistake can create excitement and value decades later. But even beyond rare varieties, condition alone can elevate the value of a standard 1984 D penny. Coins that have never been circulated, often pulled directly from original rolls and carefully preserved, can still retain their original mint luster. These coins shine with a reddish glow that collectors describe as faux red, a designation that significantly boosts desirability and price. There's also a strong emotional element to collecting coins like this. For many people, pennies from the 1980s evoke memories of childhood, allowances, arcade games, or buying candy at the corner store. Holding a pristine 1984 D penny can feel like holding a perfectly preserved fragment of that era. It's not just metal, it's memory, history, and nostalgia combined. Collectors are drawn to these coins not only for their potential financial value but also for the thrill of the hunt. The idea that something so small and seemingly insignificant could be hiding in plain sight is incredibly appealing. It turns everyday life into a treasure hunt. Every handful of change becomes an opportunity. Over time, auction records have shown just how far the value of a 1984 penny can climb under the right circumstances. Coins graded at the very top of the scale, especially those with exceptional eye appeal and no visible flaws, have achieved impressive prices. When combined with collector demand and the scarcity of top-grade examples, the results can be surprising. Imagine a collector submitting a 1984 penny for grading, hoping for a respectable score, and receiving confirmation that the coin is among the finest known examples. Suddenly, that 1-cent piece is no longer just pocket change. It becomes a centerpiece, a talking point, and a valuable asset, and this brings us to the moment you've been waiting for, the big reveal. While most 1984 pennies are worth only 1 cent, and even nice uncirculated examples might fetch just a few dollars, the very best examples tell a different story entirely. A top-grade 1984 penny, preserved in exceptional mint state condition, has reached a current value of $1.57. Yes, a single penny. 1 cent worth $1.57. That number isn't just about money. It represents rarity, preservation, history, and the passion of collectors who recognize value where others see only spare change. It's a powerful reminder that extraordinary things can hide in ordinary places. The next time you see a penny dated 1984 with a small D beneath the date, you might pause for a moment. You might look a little closer. Because in that tiny coin, there just might be a story, and a value, far greater than you ever imagined.